안녕하십니까. 아시아-태평양 섬지역 장기생태연구와 청년 생태학자 육성 세션의 자장을 맡은 김영철입니다. 오늘 이 뜻깊은 감사합니다. 오늘 이 뜻깊은 자리에 함께해 주신 여러분께 감사드립니다. 이 세션은 생태계 보존과 지속 가능한 환경을 위한 연구와 실천 사례를 공유하며 특히 청년들의 환경 보호에 기여할 수 있는 역할과 방향을 모색하는 자리입니다. 다양한 전문가들의 발표를 통해서 현장에서 이루어지는 연구와 어떤 실천적인 그 접근법을 배우고 이를 바탕으로 보다 발전적인 방향을 고민하는 기회가 되길 바랍니다. 그럼 지금부터 본격적으로 세션을 시작하겠습니다. 먼저 기조연사 소개를 해드리도록 하겠습니다. 먼저 기조 강연은 경북대학교 권호석 교수님께서 수고해 주시겠습니다. 그리고 이어지는 발제에서는 태국 까셋삿대학교의 나티다 수툼마웡 교수님, 두 번째 필리핀 센트럴 민다나오 대학교의 아들라온 연구자님, 그리고 대만 옵저버 생태 컨설턴트 유한회사의 프로젝트 스페셜리스트인 환관보님, 마지막으로 제주대학교 생물학과 박사과정의 이경태 연구자님께서 수고해 주시겠습니다. 시작에 앞서 잠시 안내사항을 말씀드리도록 하겠습니다. 뒤이어 세션이 이어지기 때문에 발표자분들께서는 발표 시간을 준수해 주실 것을 당부드리도록 하겠습니다. 그럼 먼저 권호석 교수님의 기조 강연을 듣도록 하겠습니다.
네, 반갑습니다. Welcome. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Oh-Seok from Gyeongbuk National University. And in this session, I'd like to introduce you about the biosecurity. Maybe some of you may know about the concept, but many of you maybe did not. So I will try to explain why biosecurity is important and how we relate that with the nurturing the young ecologists in the region. The introduction to biosecurity. Biosecurity refers to the measures and the policies to protect humans. So it's like military, but not in a sense of the war, but in a sense of the keeping the nature. And these measures are mainly carried out through prevention, surveillance, control, and the response. So we have 4 steps of the biosecurity. Most of all, the prevention is most important. Just like you don't want to get ill, you don't get too sick. So you have to prevent for that. So that is the first measure. And the second one is surveillance. In order to efficiently prevent the biosecurity attack, we need to have a good surveillance system. And then once you get that foreign biosecurity hazard comes in, then you need to have the control and the response. Historical background shows as early as the 14th century in the Black Death in Italy and Europe. In the recently, as you know, the COVID-19, that's also the biosecurity measures. Okay, some country. Today we have one speaker from Taiwan, but Japan or Taiwan is an island, and they try to avoid that and they lock down. So like COVID-19, that's also including the terms of the biosecurity. And now it gets harder and harder to prevent the biosecurity issues because we have more people coming in and out of our country and endangering the biosecurity. So that's why nowadays it's important we need to work together, not only one country, but in the region or in the global cooperation network is very important. Biosecurity has 4 different types of the prevention system: the human health, animal health, and plant health, and environmental protection. So in year 2000, already 25 years ago, WHO, World Health Organization under UN, made the concept of the One Health, not only for humans, but also nature and the environment we have to keep in harmony. That way, we can make sure the prosperity of the human well-being. The biosecurity concept arose around 2 decades ago to make sure both human and the nature keeping in harmony, and we can live happily together. So in order to correctly understand and make the legislation, we need to have the risk assessment. That means how bad or how important or how fast this biosecurity issue can impact our life. So in order to do that, you have to check. Like if you go to a hospital, you need a doctor to diagnose, and then also whether you have to surgery or you can get medication. The risk assessment is very important. And in order to do the risk assessment, we have 4 steps. The first one is threat identification. The second one is exposure assessment. The third one, outcome assessment. And finally, risk characterization. So just like the disease or the illness of the human, we have to first correctly point out what there's a risk in the environment, also for the human. And in order to do that, we need to have these 4 steps: correctly measuring, and then also checking what will happen out of this risk and how we need to respond. And unfortunately, many countries, including Korea, didn't put much attention on this issue because we think only ourselves, humans are most important. Well, we don't put much attention to the nature or the animals or in the environment. And that is not the way it's supposed to be, because only human evolved only a few million years ago, but the Earth's ecosystem was many, many billions of years. So maybe as one species out of millions of species in the world, we may perish, we may go out extinct in next several thousand, maybe tens of thousands of years, but all the other species on Earth will live forever. So we need to make sure it's our duty to keep the environment safe so everyone, including human species, can live together. So once you point out where the risks are, and if you know the outcome, the intensity, or the scale of the risk, then you do the second step, which is the prevention and control measures. The prevention and control measures are specific action taken to prevent the occurrence of a specific biological threat or to minimize its impact based on the results of a risk assessment. And key measures are the following: the hygiene, the vaccination, isolation or quarantine, and disinfection and sterilization. And we experienced these 4 steps in the last 3 years, right? When the COVID-19 started out, in March 2020, the Korea government expressed the martial law to with lockdown until June of 2022. So effectively 3 years, our freedom to move was inhibited. We need to take the mask. We need to take the test, right? That's the hygiene and vaccination. And most of you get 1 or 2 shots of the vaccine. Right? I took three times, and I got 2 COVID-19. Okay, so we already experienced, right? And then once it's done, then the last step is disinfection and sterilization. Make sure there's no virus in our community. And I just heard in many countries now, the COVID-19, another type of virus, is spreading out again. And this summer, especially in Southeast Asia. And this is a recurring threat, okay? It will not go away. We never experienced before in the history of such a big impact, but it became a casual encounter in future. So we need to make sure that you can be properly protected. Okay? So in order to do that, we need a good surveillance and the monitoring. Even after the COVID-19 crisis finished around 2 years ago, there's always a threat, but we don't remember, right? Most of you don't take the mask anymore, right? But in Southeast Asia, already people are saying this new variety of a virus is much fatal, okay? And if you are not doing the surveillance and monitoring, maybe next time the big wave comes and many more people will die. Keeping the surveillance and monitoring is important. And one of our speakers will talk about not for the human, but for the nature. They are all doing the long-term ecological research. That's a surveillance and monitoring program. Make sure the humans, keeping the nature healthy and safe. So nowadays, only doing for one country will not solve many problems and related to biosecurity. So we need a global cooperation. We have many of the foreign invasive species coming into Korea from other countries, but those foreign invasive species are the native species in their country. So there will be no problem in their country. If we have the good global cooperation, we can quickly surveillance and the monitoring and keeping ourselves safe. So the global cooperation is very important nowadays. And then I want to introduce how we do the global cooperation in the last 10 years, and namely the International Ecology School. International Ecology School was formed in 2018 by the EEMICF. This is the Environment, Ecology, Meteorology, and the ICT Consultant Forum under the National Assembly of the Korea. And this was formed in 2017 to make the policy making and the suggestion to the government, and also doing a lot of activity in global cooperation. And right after we made this EEMICF forum in 2018, we focused on the International Ecology School. This is the first of its kind in the world, supported by the donation from the private business sector. You may have heard about the ESG, environmental and social governance. Now, the many governments, including Korea or Europe, they are mandating many companies to pay like a tax, to keeping the nature safe. And that we call the ESG. And also in Korea, we have the mandate. So we checked, and maybe we can make this International Ecology School by the ESG donation from the private company. And 2019, we had the International Symposium on the International Ecology School, IES, at the National Assembly of Korea in Yeouido, Seoul. But unfortunately, the next year, 2020, as you know, COVID-19 broke out. So we could not do anything, right? So we have to postpone for 3 years until it was elevated in 2022. So even we started in 2019, the first of the International Ecology School started in 2022. I'll just give you some overview of the IES. IES as main content is operation of International Ecology School, and we conducted on-site training using the LTER research bases in East Asia Pacific. And LTER stands for the long-term ecological research. This is a global network since 1970, and many of the countries are participating in it, and I'm the chair of the East Asia Pacific region. So we have the European region, American region, African region, and East Asia Pacific region. There's 4 regional sectors. And as a regional chair, I command and working with about 10 countries in the East Asia Pacific region. And we using, as a scientist, doing the research, the long-term ecological research means you're doing for 20, 30, 40 years. Sometimes you go to your students, right? So one of the LTR sites in Europe or America is dated back more than 50 or even 100 years. So it's not only your individual working, but as a group working, studying for generations. I joined the East Asia Pacific Ecological Network in 1998. So you can remember, you know, maybe in a couple of years later, it's already 30 years. And maybe my student will, you know, inherit that and will keep doing that. So that goes on. That's kind of very long and slow, but important research. And now, like myself, it's the first generation in Korea. But when my time is gone, we need to keep the young ecologists to continue. And this is very hard. My generation, in what you call in the 1950s and 60s generation, we worked very hard and the country becomes economically progress, and we didn't mind to have a hard working. But now the MZ generation, right, in their 20s and 30s, they don't want to go and climbing mountain for 2 hours to collect data. It's very hard to have the young student in the lab, okay? They want to just stay in the laboratory with nice air conditioning and just moving their fingers, you know? They don't want to climb up to the Hala mountain for 2 or 3 hours, just collect how many leaves in the trees. And it became very, very hard to motivate and keeping this kind of research. So that's why we formed the International Ecology School to help and to motivate young ecologists, not only in Korea, in the region, or globally, because this is a very important research and very important not only for the human, but also for the future of the nature. So in order to achieve this goal, we made several missions. One of that is studying the process of making ecosystem services sustainable and strengthening ecosystem resilience and protecting biodiversity. So each ecological school, about 1 week to 10 days, we circulating each country in the region where we invite students and the lecturers from each country, and we stay there together 24 hours to 7 days. And we have a very intense discussion and training. And in order to do that, I'll just show you the value and the strategy of the IS. The values are the protecting ecosystems and the biodiversity from disturbances caused by the human activity, and striving to understand our responsibilities and value towards nature, and leverage information management and the big data analytics. Okay? And once you do that, we can nurturing emerging environmentalists and ecologists in the East Asia Pacific region. And through long-term ecological monitoring, we understand climate change and ecological changes in the East Asia Pacific region and prepare countermeasures. As you know, understand, especially in Korean Peninsula, is impacted most by the global climate change. The world average of the temperature region in the last 100 years is about 1.4 degrees Celsius, but in Korean Peninsula it's 2.5 degrees Celsius. We are warming much faster than the other region. I'm 60, and when I was a young student, I'm from Seoul, the Han River was frozen. You could do the skating and you can cross over in 1960s and 70s. But now, whole maybe less than 1 day, in a year, or not at all, you never see Han River frozen nowadays. That shows the evidence how the climate change happened in Korean Peninsula. And many people say in last 20 years, next 20 years, we will not have the apple tree in South Korea because apple tree needs cold climate to flower next year. If it warms up, we cannot cultivate apple tree. I'm from Gyeongbuk National University. Daegu Gyeongbuk area is famous for apple, but we never have an apple orchard in 20 years' time. So that directly affects us, and we need to understand the mechanism and how we can prevent it or how we can measure it. Okay. So the first IES program was in 2022 in Thailand, and Professor Nantida from the Thailand is here now. We had a very wonderful actually 10 days at the time, because we didn't do it for 3 years. We concentrated, and that is one of the conservation nature, that means a nature protection site in Thailand. Normally, the people cannot come in it, but the 까셋삿 University has the research station there. So we stayed there and doing the field research, going out field, and all the lectures. Second one was in Taiwan, Busan Station. There's one from Taiwan coming here. And also this Illan Botanical Garden, in the Busan Botanical Garden in Illan. And that's also the LTR site. And we stayed there in the mountains, and also we checked that. And bingo, last year, it was in Jeju Island. So we had a very good, including the governor of the Jeju province came, and many of our parliament members came to celebrate. And we had a very big, around 80 people from 9 countries coming. We went to the Hala Mountain, also the Marado Island, and then we show, all these ecological activities. And that gives the kind of proudness and the motivation for younger generation, and to keeping it, make sure that we are doing things to keep biosecurity, not only in Korea, but also in the region. Okay? So this year we will have in Mongolia in August, and most of all, this is all free for the students and the lecturers, because this is by the donation of the Korean company. And that boosts up, as a ESG activity, how we Koreans giving duties and the promises to make sure our world, to keeping nature safe. So development of an international ecology school program that can be linked to the corporate ESG management. And many countries now start to look at the success of the IES, and they want to do the similar thing together. So we try to build it up as a global international ecology school. We started from Korea, but we could link with the European and the North American, and it could become a very big, international ecology school, what as the name says. And I will try my effort and my eagerness to do that, but the participation of the young researchers in the region is also very important. So we invited some of the guests today to show what they are doing and why it is important to keeping the global and the international cooperation. So keeping biosecurity through nurturing young ecologists is important. Thank you very much.
네, 바이오 시큐리티 at hands nurturing young ecologist를 주제로 깊이 있는 강연해 주신 권원석 교수님께 감사드립니다. 자, 그러면 5분의 발표자분들의 발표를 듣는 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 모든 발표자분들은 단상위로 가셔서 발표를 하도록 하겠습니다. All presenters go upstairs. Yeah. 네, 그러면 총 5분 중에서 이제 네 분의 발표자분들 중에서 첫 번째 발표는 태국 까셋삿대학교의 산림생물학과 거기에 나티다 수투마웡 교수님께서 발표를 해주도록 하겠습니다. 네, 발표 부탁드리도록 하겠습니다.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nantida Sutumma웡. I'm a lecturer from 까셋삿 University, Faculty of Forestry, and from Thailand. Yeah, I'm gonna share my experience and my work about the long-term ecological research and youth engagement in Thailand ecosystem. Yeah, why Thailand ecosystem is important and how is the role of the LTER and also how the youth as active environmental contributes in Thailand. Yeah, because Thailand is the hotspot of biodiversity and our activities or foods or any is related to the ecosystem and also the climate or any also need to know more biodiversity and ecology. Yeah, as you can see on this map, Thailand is located in the global biodiversity hotspot of overall threatened and species richness. Yeah, so it's like Thailand has like more than 23,000 species of animals and plants and any, but now we have lots of problems like the trees from urbanization, the overpopulations, and also the climate impacts. For now, in this month on May, in Thailand it's still in the summer, but now it's more than 4 days a week is raining, so it's impact from the climate. So for this knowledge, we need more long-term ecological research to monitor the what we have and what it's gonna change in the future, and we can use this information to predicting. And also Thailand, we have the more than 20 sites of the long-term ecological research. And especially from the 까셋삿 University, for the Faculty of Forestry, we have the university research station across Thailand, around 11 local research stations, and students can use that area for their learning area. Yeah, so linked to the professor also said about the next generation is very important. The youth one, because the pioneer people, they're very smart, but now everything changed. People love to stay in the room, don't want to go out, and yeah, it's very challenging for the next generation on ecology. And for my faculties, we try to use the youth engagement in the long-term ecology. For example, they can be the fieldwork participants to support us and learning from the researcher and professor. And also we can do the citizen science projects and upskill building for the student and the new generation, and also leadership and communication development. Yeah, I'm gonna show you some project that I am doing now. The first one is hornbill monitoring on Kokut Island. This island is very beautiful island. It's in the eastern of Thailand. And for this, the Kokut Island, they used to have the hornbill. What is the hornbill? This is the bird. It's the smallest hornbill in Thailand. In Thailand, we have 13 species of hornbill. And the island, the Kokut Island, used to have the hornbill. But since they developed the area to be the tourist site, they built a very good resort also on, and agro and any agriculture. And this bird is disappeared from the island more than 30 years. And now we for this project, we work with the zoo and Department of National Park, and 까셋삿 University and Hornbill Research Foundation to do the project to reintroduce the oriental pine hornbill back to the islands. And we try to encourage the students. In the island, they have just 4 schools, just only 4 schools in the island. And we give the knowledge to the students, and we try to work with the artists to bring the hornbill as the any sign and art, and the local people, they can get benefit from the project, like the location for tourists to sightseeing, and also learning how to do the animal feeding or collecting the data. And another project, we do the mangrove restoration in the Rayong province. The Rayong province is the industrial province, and they have the mangrove forest in the city. But it's lots of things because of in the city, and it is the industrial. So the forest is not good quality now. We try to do like a monitoring how many species of wildlife, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and also mammals in the area. And then we collect the carbon storage in the area. And also doing on urban birds ecology, like monitoring how many species of birds, and share our knowledge about species in Bangkok. Yeah, we also do get a chance to join the IES. So this activity is very valuable because we can push our master student and PhD, and we can do the networking in across country. In 2022, we went to the Taiwan, and we succeeded because one of our PhD students get the chance to join the research project with the professor from University of Queensland. And last year, it's very good that we came here and we get a chance to visit the Halang Mountain and walk up to the hills. It's very beautiful and amazing for us. And we got lots of networking after that. And we also link our knowledge because the biodiversity is linked to the National Biodiversity Strategic Action Plans. Like the use is very important and the knowledge is most important. And for the challenge from our experience, and because I'm just the new researcher, and we think the limited access to the field site is very important because nowadays most of people, especially the government or any supporting from public, they don't focus on the ecology or nature much. So it's very difficult to get the funding to the field. And if the new generation don't get a chance to the field, it feel like you don't feel want to go again. And we need more monitoring and long-term commitment. So for this solution, maybe we need more partnership and also sustain programs. Yes, and yeah, just wanna give for the last talk about youth are not just learning nature, they are shaping its future because from now the youth is very important for our nature. Thank you.
네, 수툼마웡 교수님께서 태국 생태연구와 그다음에 청년들의 참여에 대한 중요한 사례를 공유해 주셨고요. 교수님께 다시 한번 감사의 말씀드립니다. 다음 발표는 필리핀의 그 센트럴 민다나오 대학교의 아이비 아다온 연구자님께서 발표를 해주도록 하겠습니다. 부탁드립니다.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, sir. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Ivy Adlaon, and I am a graduate student in Central Mindanao University, majoring biodiversity and conservation. So my topic for today, I will be talking to you about fern diversity and their economic value, specifically in Mount Musuan long-term ecological ecological research site. So I titled it The Gift of a Frond, so the leaf part of the fern. So monitoring fern diversity and its economic value in Mount Musuan Elder Site, Bukidnon, Philippines. So Philippines is an archipelago. It is composed of 3 major islands, namely Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And in total, we have 14 elder sites. So specifically, we have 5 elder sites in Luzon. We also have 4 elder sites in Visayas. And for Mindanao, we have 5 long-term ecological research sites. And specifically, we have 1 in Bukidnon, the province of Bukidnon, where I was staying. We have Mount Musuan, or also called as Mount Calayo, along with Mount Apo, Mount Kitanglad, Mount Malindang, and Mount Hamigitan. So Mount Musuan is just one of the 5 elder sites in Mindanao. So long-term ecological research was conducted in Mount Musuan. So we have monitored it from 2013, 2015, and 2023. So it's almost more than a decade of long-term ecological research in that site. So we found out 530 plant species, in which 5 are endangered, 134 are endemic, 7 are rare, 138 are economically significant, and 6 are culturally important species. We also found or recorded 44 wildlife species, in which 26 are bird species, 4 are mammals, 9 are reptiles, and 5 amphibians. So we also, aside from biodiversity, we also conducted ecotourism researches in Mount Musuan because it is an ecotourism site. So a lot of people are going there for tourism purposes, to relax, etc. So now my focus is on pteridophyte species. So in a worldwide case, we have 11,916 species of ferns and lycophytes, in which 1,100 species can be found in the Philippines. And these particular plant group are collected for economic, medicinal, and aesthetic uses, meaning to say, specifically these aesthetic uses, this cause or poses threats to this specific plant group, because anyone can just pick this specific plant group and then collect it for aesthetic uses, like for ornamentals and such, right? So this poses threats because a lot of people can collect it without knowing its conservation status. So that's why it's very important to conduct diversity or species composition researches, in which we conducted and we have found 4 vegetation types, different vegetation types in Mount Musuan. We have natural forest, mixed biro, silent shower, and teak plantation. So we also conducted transect walk from the entrance point or the foot of the mountain up to the peak. So mind you, this Mount Musuan is 646 meters above sea level. So in each of the vegetation types, we established 2 20 by 20 meters sampling plots for diversity computation. So we found out that among 4 vegetation types, the mixed biro vegetation type has the highest diversity value of 1.18. This is because of the unique soil types and the presence of small rocks in the mixed mirror vegetation. So even though natural forest has a canopy and is almost one of the suitable place or site for pteridophytes to grow, it has the lowest diversity index of 0.85. This is due to the presence of invasive species such as the Donax caniformis. So that's why it's very important to control invasive species even in self-regulating forest or like the natural forest. So we found, so from the research we conducted, we found a trend of pteridophyte species composition from 2013 to 2023. So for 2013 and 2015, we found 11 species of pteridophytes in Mount Musuan. But as we go along, with long-term ecological research, we found that after a decade of research, it increases into 38 species of pteridophyte. So this is how important long-term ecological research is, so that we can increase or we can help monitor how many species do we have specifically in this specific plant group. So say for example, we found out in 2015 that we have this Asplenium nidus, which is a vulnerable species. But in 2023, we found out that it does not exist anymore in the mountain. Meaning to say, we might have failed to protect the existence of this vulnerable species in the mountain. So we have here this endangered species right now, or in the year 2023, the Spiropteris glauca, in which we continually monitor its existence up until now, for us to make sure that what happened to Asplenium nidus will not happen to Spiropteris glauca, so that we can continue its existence in Mount Muswan. So here are some of the examples of the plant species that we have observed in Mount Muswan, pteridophyte species. And so for us to know what is the value of the pteridophyte species, we conducted economic valuation. It is actually a tool for us to know the price, how much is this plant group. So basically, we conducted contingent valuation method. So this is not for us to sell economically this plant, but for us to analyze and understand how much loss we can afford to have, right? So we conducted contingent valuation method to estimate the willingness to pay of the locals in the area. This is also for us to communicate with the local people. You know, how are they willing to protect? How much are they willing to spend for the protection of this specific plant group? So we have here a question, contingent question. Suppose a forest conservation program is proposed in Mount Muswan to maintain and improve the conservation and protection of the pteridophyte species. Would you be willing to pay additional entrance fee to support this conservation program? So from that scenario, we have, out of 153 respondents, we have 115 said yes, they're willing to pay an extra entrance fee, and 38 answered no, they're not willing to pay. Now, this is the original responses. Now, from that, we bid an amount. So, as you can see in the screen, we have this amount bidded for them. And then we, on a scale of 1 to 5, how certain are they that they can pay the said amount for the conservation program. So if they answered 1 to 3, then we will consider them not willing to pay. And 4 to 5, certainty, meaning they're very confident that they can pay the said amount. And then if they can, and if their amount is not in the bidded amount, so they can just write the exact amount of how much they're willing to pay. So from that, we have from 115, we have 89 answered yes, and 64 answered no. They're not willing to pay. So the mean willingness to pay, or the MWTP, is $0.70 US. And that is computed to the approximate number of visitors per month, which is 387. So we have $270.9 US per month. Or in a year, we have accumulated $3,250 US every year as the value, or the estimated value of the pteridophyte species in Mount Muswan. So because of the diversity studies that we have published this one together with my co-students and with our mentors, Dr. Fulgen Critico and Dr. Victor B. Amoroso. So you can read this one online. It is free, and you can have access to this one online. So before I end my presentation, I'll leave you this quote. We can't put absolute price on nature, but we can show what we can't stand to lose. So that's all. Thank you so much, everyone, for your kind attention.
네, 아이비 연구자님께서는 필리핀의 장기생태 연구, 그리고 그 경제적 가치에 대해서 좀 흥미로운 발표를 해주셨습니다. 감사드립니다. 다음은 대만의 그 옵저버 생태 컨설턴트 유한회사라고 있는데 거기에 황관보 프로젝트 스페셜리스트님께서 발표를 이어서 해주시겠습니다. 예, 부탁드리겠습니다.
Hello everyone, I'm Guanbo Huang from Taiwan. And thanks to Jeju Forum gives the opportunity to share the experience of managing invasive species in Taiwan. And it is the conservation work I've been involved in over the past 6 years at one of the Taiwan's most important wetlands. Okay. So briefly introduce myself. I graduated from the Department of Life Science at National Taiwan Normal University. And in the center of the photo is my advisor, Professor Tan Chu Lin. He's a remarkable long-term ecology with a special focus on how typhoons affect forest ecosystem over time. Although my own thesis work wasn't directly related to long-term ecological research, Professor Lin's mentorship gave me a deep appreciation for long-term thinking in ecology. This broader perspective has strongly influenced the way I now approach ecological issues in my professional work, and also the opportunity to join the last year's IES. Okay, so before we dive into the case study, it's important to first understand the deep impact that invasive species can have on island nations. So research has shown that island ecosystems are especially fragile due to significant difference from continental ecosystem in terms of species richness, genetic diversity, and ecological uniqueness. Because islands have limited space and over lower biodiversity, many species that live there are endemic. They exist nowhere else. So when an invasive species arrives and successfully establishes a population, it might be rapidly outcompete native species for resources, and sometimes even driving them to extinction. So unlike larger ecosystems, islands often lack ecological buffers or fallback mechanisms. So as a result, a single invasive species can trigger ecosystem-wide collapse. Okay, so this is my study site, the Shuanglianpi wetland. It's a nationally designated wetland in Taiwan. It's a wetland located in a low mountain environment surrounded by the forest, and particularly fascinating for its floating island. You can see on the picture the mass of vegetation float on a mirror-like surface. About 30 years ago, these islands are not only covered by the herbaceous plant and lower shoots as they are today, but also supportive for the full tree growth, like the image on the right. So this change occurred because the Shuanglianpi was designated as before the Shuanglianpi was designated as a nationally important wetland. It was privately purchased. So for development into a tourist lake, Shuanglianpi development activity, and along with the introduction of various fish species for recreational fishing, so caused a significant ecological damage to the Shuanglianpi. So Shuanglianpi was a paradise for various wetland plants and home to a rich diversity of endemic and rare species, with the plants can and abundance of dragonflies and frogs. Shuanglianpi used to record about 2/3 of all frog species found in Taiwan, along with several rare dragonfly species. It was during my university years, driven by love for plant observation, I meet Hong Yi, you can see on the right. He is currently the leader of the local conservation groups. In addition to his deep passion for wildlife, he also possesses professional expertise in ecological restoration and field research. So during my summer and winter breaks, I would join him in Shuanglianpi to observe nature and also restore native species and habitat. Through these experiences, by learning under his guidance, I gradually grew into an ecologically trained researcher. So in mid-2019, an invasive species quietly emerged in Shuanglianpi. It's a Giles Salvinia, you can see on the picture. The plant shown in the photo is a floating aquatic fern that reproduces rapidly by spores. And not only does it outcompete native floating plants, but it also causes eutrophication, which can lead to the death of other aquatic organisms. So at first, you can see on the picture, it was just a small patches on the floating in the lake. But by the end of the year, it has quickly spread and taken over a significant portion of the lake, and marking the beginning of our 6 years fight. Okay, so despite the damage it has suffered, Shangpi also still had harbor many rare and valuable plant species. And additionally, as a designated wetland, it was protected by strict regulation, which means we couldn't use heavy machinery to remove the invasive species. And as a result, we rely entirely on manual labor. You need a significant manpower. But fortunately, many students in my department were passionate about nature. We began to organizing student volunteer groups to help remove giant salvinia, just like in the photo. And the water team you can see we can wear the chest wadder and life vest, and the water team use tire to gather the salvinia, and where the land team will collect it and bag it the plants. And since we aim to reduce the pressure on native species before the growing season, we always started our work in early spring when the weather was still cold and drizzling. It was a physical demanding and exhausting task, but one we were committed to. Okay, as you can see, after just 1 day of work, we were able to remove 30 to 40 large bags of giant salvinia. And seeing the lake clear again, my heart also feels a sense of peace. So we began tackling giant salvinia in 2019, and by 2024, it has been nearly eradicated. The image on the left shows change in its distribution over time. We consistently confine it to the northeastern corner of the lake, prevent it from spreading across the entire water body. Even so, the area it covered was already quite overwhelming. On the right, the data show the number of salvinia bags removed per each year. Reveals our journey over the 6th year. The COVID-19 disrupted our efforts and allowed salvinia growth again. However, by 2023, after enduring the most difficult period, we saw a significant decline in its population. And by 2024, the population crashed. This marked a major milestone and a clear sign that our long-term efforts has paid off. I believe the key of the success of Shangnianpi conservation effort lies in the role played by the Society of Wilderness, the NGO where Hong Yi works. As an experienced environmental organization in Taiwan, SOW has long served as an effective bridge between the public sector, private enterprise, and the academic institution. The strong track record and the familiarity with government collaboration, we were able to secure solid support from various public agencies, including the Yilan Country Government, Taiwan Forest Research Institute, Forestry and Nature Conservation Agency. And SOW's credibility and long-term commitment to conservation also earn the trust of private enterprise. We are especially grateful to Wistron Cooperation for their long-standing support, which has been instrumental to our efforts. In fact, Wistron partnered with us early on, even before the invasive species outbreak, to support habitat restoration initiative. Lastly, SOW maintains close ties with university, ensuring that our conservation work is backed by science and expert input. And my relationship with Hong Yi serves as a small bridge and between the organization and the department, while I provide the underground manpower needed for restoration, and SOW became a strong supporter for our student-led effort, helping to ensure that this conservation action continue to grow and be passed on. So, summary of my talk, I was thinking that invasive species management requires patience, long-term commitment, and community collaboration. And Shangnianpi case shows that even though the challenge can be overcome, and for island nation, prevention is critical, better than cure. So lastly, I want to share my current work. After graduating, I joined an Observer Ecological Consultant Company. In this role, we undertake projects from both government and the private. I'm currently leading work under Taiwan Ecological Network, which aims to range to coastal zones and connect ecological important areas from mountain to coastal zone, and focusing especially on the lowland foothill. These areas are important for biodiversity, but also highly vulnerable to human disturbance. Our job is not only to assess and map this ecological resource, but also to propose solutions for protecting key habitat and species of concerns. As Taiwan moves toward more sustainable development, one of our goals is to find ways to reduce environmental impact of human needs while also enhancing disaster prevention. To achieve this, we support government effort by nature-based solutions that strike balance between ecological protection and human well-being. Thanks for listening.
네, 황간보님께서는 대만의 특히 외래종 수행식물에 대한 관리 방안에 대해서 좀 더 실천 사례를 좀 말씀해 주셨습니다. 네, 감사드립니다. 마지막 발표인데요. 이제 제주대학교 생물학과의 이경태 연구원님께서 발표를 해주도록 하겠습니다. 네, 부탁드리도록 하겠습니다.
Hello everyone, my name is Kyung-tae. I'm a PhD student at Jeju National University. My main subject are marine ecology and macroalgae diversity. Today, I would like to share my research under the title Climate-Driven Change in Marine Ecosystem of Jeju Island and the Diversity of Non-Generic Coralline Algae. Jeju is recognized one of the most biodiverse regions in Korea. In Jeju Island, marine algae are recorded 700 species, according for 74% of Korean coastline. And also, Jeju Island hold 3 UNESCO designations that ecological importance at both national and global levels. However, over the past few decades, this coastal ecosystem has gone repeat changes due to multiple environmental factors. In particular, seawater temperature has steadily increased, with winter temperature rising most significantly. This warming trend has led to the structural collapse of native ecosystem. This change directly affects ecosystem function, biodiversity, and local fisheries. This change also becoming increasingly unpredictable. So to understand and respond to them, we must establish a long-term monitoring framework that includes quantitative and repeatable methods. I also emphasize the importance of short-term monitoring, which can capture early signs of ecological changes. Together, short-term, long-term monitoring are not separate efforts, but rather interconnected strategies that allow us to understand the trajectory of ecological changes. This is my study. My initial monitoring effort employ a line transect method combined with underwater photography and image analysis. We set line transect along the seafloor and capture image in regular intervals, and then calculate the percentage cover of benthic community compositions. Initially, we used 20-meter line transect due to time limitation of underwater survey. However, we later expanded line transect to 100 meters using a photocoordinate system and have continued annual survey at the same size as long-term monitoring. This method leads to research outcomes. On the right, our results show that Arbiopora japonica was dominant in some part of Jeju Island, and Crostos's coralline algae displaced kelp species and make a suitable substrate for coral attachment. On the right, kelp species declined sharply, but Ecolonia cava remained the core species. This result demonstrates how image-based data can reveal not only structural pattern, but also ecological process and response to disturbance. However, line-tailed insects only capture organisms visible on the surface. To go deeper, we use autonomous leaf monitoring structure. It's called ARMS. ARMS allow us to sample sessile organisms and hidden invertebrates that are often missed in conventional surveys. After emergence, we retrieve the ARMS unit and process them through a standardized protocol in globally. This approach provides high-resolution biodiversity data, especially for cryptic species. In ARMS survey, the ARMS unit were deployed in both coral and macroalgae dominated habitats, and they were analyzed after 12 and 34 moments using two approaches, DNA metabarcoding and image analysis. Our results show difference in benthic community across surface, time period, and habitats. However, despite this finding, this method also has limitations because the lack of species level identification constrains our ability to interpret ecosystem change. Modern monitoring tools such as line-tailed insect and ARMS help us understand who is present and how much. However, they don't tell us the true species level identification. In some cases, organisms that look identical can actually be different species and each with distinct ecological functions. For example, non-generic coralline algae, Lithophyllum neokamure and Lithophyllum okamure are morphologically similar. However, differ in internal anatomy and genetics and possibility in their ecological function. So if we don't resolve this species level identification, we risk under-interpreting change in biodiversity, community composition, and ecological function. This is why taxonomy is not just naming organisms, it is essential for leading ecosystem change. Corallines are ecosystem engineers and the most abundant organisms in the benthic ecosystems. Their calcium carbonate cell wall serve as major long-term carbon sinks in the ocean. Corallines and also coralline algae form the biogenic habitats such as coral reefs, rhodolith bed, and complex microhabitats for supporting diverse marine organisms. And coralline algae display pink color and wide range of growth form. Taxonomically, they are categorized various growth forms. However, from an ecological perspective, we group them into two main forms, rhodolith and CCA. Generally, CCA is dominant in low energy conditions, while rhodolith thrive in high energy environmental conditions. Interestingly, the same species can sometimes switch their growth form depending on environmental conditions. My main research target is the genus Lithophyllum. Lithophyllum is the genus, current the largest genus of non-generic coralline algae with over 146 species globally. This genus is characteristic by several diagnostic key, uniprolate concentracle, secondary pit connection, and dimorous construction. Moreover, Lithophyllum has a rich data set of molecular sequence. In recently, a sixth paper has described new Lithophyllum species. This strongly suggests that the diversity within Lithophyllum has been underestimated and revisionary work is urgently needed to resolve this hidden diversity. Within this framework, I recently described a new species, Lithophyllum jejuensis. This species was identified using molecular and morphological analysis. Through the long time passage of time, Lithophilum jejuensis had waited quietly to be called by each name. Moving forward, I will continue to give name to the unnamed species and labeling the biodiversity within this pink algae. Thank you for your attention.
네, 제주도의 섬생물 기후변화와 관련해서 심도 있는 연구를 공유해 주셔서 감사드립니다. 자, 그러면 이제 발표자분들과 패널 토론을 가져보도록 하겠습니다. 어찌 보면 이제 생물 안전 그리고 장기 생태 또는 외래종 더불어서 이제 모니터링, 뭐 생태 교육 이런 키워드를 중심으로 발표를 해주신 것 같습니다. 그러면 그 내용을 중심으로 쟁점과 어떤 실천 방안에 대해서 한번 자유롭게 의견을 나눠 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 일단 먼저 그 강연해 주신 권호석 교수님께서 한번 말씀을 한번 생물 안전에 대한 부분과 어떤 그 청년들의 그 연구자 양성이라든가 어떻게 접점을 찾을 수 있는지부터 좀 말씀해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Okay, thank you very much for the participation from the audience. And this International Ecology School or the global cooperation with the young researchers was not the kind of main issue in last 20 years. It only came out in 21st century, so after year 2000, we need to see the urgency of the nurturing young ecologists, not only in Korea, but in most of the countries. I think it's a global phenomenon that the younger generation doesn't want to go out and sweat themselves, climbing mountain for hours, But as you see in each individual cases of these researchers, it needs their self-satisfaction. They are now working for making more money or to better jobs because they can do better in otherwise. But this is that you need the self-confidence, that you understand what you are doing is the right thing and the meaningful thing, not for themselves, but also for everyone. So the International Ecology School tried to give them motivation and give them self-satisfaction and make their mind to set on what they're doing is the right thing and the meaningful things. And today we had 4 young speakers talking about what they're doing. And as you see, they are working very hard in many different ways, in the mountains, in the rivers, in the oceans. But these all have to get together, like a puzzle. Each bit of the experiment and the observations and monitoring may look insignificant, but if you put them together and put them as a complete picture, then we have a very strong tool, right, to keeping the nature safe and keeping the harmony with the human development in a harmonious way. So we need to learn how to live together in the nature. And I hope the audience would get some glimpse of what we are doing and why this is important, and about the International Ecology School. And every year we post in the newspaper to participants. It's completely free. You can always apply and you can participate and enjoy the nature. Also enjoy how we try to keep nature safe. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you again. Yeah, for Thailand, we got a chance to join the IES for 3 times, and it was the great experience. Like for me, I am a lecturer, and every year I took a student, like a master student and a PhD student, and also last year we took 1 undergrad student. So all of them, when we joined the IES, we got the experience. And when we back to Thailand, and we share our experience to other students who don't get a chance to come here. And I think it's very important about the youth or the younger student interested on ecosystem and also the conservation. And I just share you about some my project that every project I took the student, both undergrad student and master student to help me to work together. Also, but not just the joy of the project. They can learn how to collecting the data, how to communication with the people. Because when my specialist on wildlife, so we wake up in the morning to do bird watching, and when we walk and people ask, "What are you doing?" and we just tell them, "What is this bird?" And it's very nice that people interesting to know the birds, and it's more relaxed. And in some area, people they take their families, especially the children, to join us, and it's very nice. And I think every time when we go to the field, like in natural, it's very important. And even we work about the reintroduce the hornbill, we try to encourage the local people to join us about how to feed hornbill and how to use the hornbill as the tourist area. And our dream is if people in the future, if people lie on the boat or the ferry and close to the island, and they can see the hornbill fly over the island, is our dream. And yeah, we try to do more, and I think the networking is very important, especially the IES. And yeah, and I want to share more, and yeah, but my concrete word that I think the new generation is very important. The youth is very important for the future conservation and diversity. Yes.
So, yeah, as I mentioned a while ago, I am from Central Mindanao University in the Philippines. And this is my second time here in Jeju Island. Since last year, I joined the International Ecology School. That was August, I think. And this is my second time where I was invited to speak in this Jeju forum. And I think it's very important that we talk about involving like what the other speakers have mentioned a while ago, they talk about involving the local people in conservation programs. So my focus is on economic valuation of ecosystem services because I wanted to, it is my dream to make a collaborative effort in making science-based policies. So when we do science-based policies, we have to also connect it with the indigenous local knowledge system because that is where everything started. So I worked with indigenous people when I conducted my research during my undergraduate studies as well as during my graduate studies. So it's very important to have a collaboration with the indigenous people where we conducted our ecological research because they know more about what is in there and what is in need of protection because they know more of the forest ecosystem that they have more than anyone, and it is our duty to identify what is inside the forest. So we have to identify them, and after that, as my expertise on economic valuation, it is my duty to make it more public on the value of the plant group, specifically plants, because I work more on plants. So what is the value of those plant species? So I do with a contingent valuation, I also do market price valuation, and a lot more. So I think it's very important, specifically that youth is now, that International Ecology School is now encouraging youth to participate in conserving biodiversity. So thank you so much.
Okay, I think that a professor, just like a professor said, it was a hard. It was hard to choose when you're doing when you be an ecologist, because doing the ecologist you have low salary, you have a lot of pressure that species are dying every day, and you have to take action to save them from the maybe building something or something. Yes. So I think IES last year motivated me to keep doing a job of the ecology. To why I choose to be a project specialist in a ecology consultant company is because I think it's I can directly go to the site to save the various kind of species and solve the problem. And I think that we have to find more and more people to join us to take action to protect the species. And you know that the environment are be broken. So I think that we need to let more people knowing the importance of the environment and the ecology. Thank you.
이렇게 기후변에 따른 이제 젊은 연구자들이 마음을 모아서 이렇게 모인 이 자리가 저한테는 너무 특별하고요. 여기 모든 생태 연구를 하는 사람들은 연구자들은 아시겠지만 이 장기 생태가 굉장히 사실 어려운 이제 과제거든요. 하지만 그럼에도 불구하고 이제 기후 변화가 이제 메인 이슈가 되고 그것을 해결하기 위한 많은 연구자들이 있다는 이제 우리나라뿐만 아니라 해외에 이렇게 많이 있다는 사실이 제가 앞으로 이제 구체적인 이 기후 변화에 따른 문제를 찾고 이를 해결하기 위한 이제 앞으로의 연구에 있어서 많은 도움이 될 거라고 생각을 합니다. 앞으로도 많은 관심과 응원 부탁드리겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 토론 감사드리고요. 혹시 몰라서 플로어에서 혹시 궁금하실 수 있는 부분이 있으니까 혹시 질문하시거나 궁금하신 점이 있으시면 질문을 한번 받아보도록 하겠습니다. 혹시 질문이
예, 안녕하십니까. 고초할 국민학자들은 상임다 송감필입니다. 제가 조금 궁금한 거는요. 그 태국하고 필리핀에 지금 맹그로브 숲이 있잖아요. 근데 지금 기후 변화에 의해서 비가 많이 오고 바닷물 수위가 높아지고 있어서 그 숲이 지금 어떻게 움직이고 있는지 좀 궁금합니다. 네. 네.
Yeah. You talk about the mangrove forest, right? And about climate change. In my site that I mentioned you before is the the location is in the city and is the delta from the city and next to the sea. So for now, not just the climate change, like in my site, is also in the urbanization because the pollutions also is very happens, and we try to lots of species of mangrove forest is adapt. In some area, some species like Rhizophora is dominate. Because they can adapt to the change of the water quality or something. But for when we look into the wildlife or animals in the area, I think the climate change is more impact because when have raining, the water quality, I mean the salt change from the fresh from the backwash water to more fresh water, and some species that they cannot adapt moving, and some species is die from that happens, and also the increasing because of climate change is some invasive species is increasing, and is the impact to the native species in the mangrove forest. So in my case, we set up the long-term study in the area about the forest restoration and also the carbon storage. So we monitoring also the animals and plants. And in the future, we try to share more information to people. But now we do more like a monitoring, and when people coming and see what we are doing, they just come to join us. Yeah, for the Philippines.
So thank you so much. So I'm actually connected with the Center for Biodiversity Research in Mindanao, Research Extension in Mindanao. And right now we are not actually researching or doing research concerning mangrove forest ecosystem. We are more concerned on the forest ecosystem, not particularly in mangrove ecosystem. But in my case, I'm studying economic valuation, and I've read few research on mangrove ecosystem. I will just connect it with my focus of study, sir. So my study is on economic valuation, and I've read a research on mangrove ecosystem in Bohol, in which they tried to put value on the mangrove ecosystem to make an impactful necessity, or to make it a necessity for mangrove conservation, because mangrove really is a helpful mangrove is a helpful plant group for specifically in this time where climate change is really is really becoming more real by the minute. So yeah, I think it's very important also to have more focus. So thank you so much. So I guess I will just relay the information that we have to not only focus on the forest ecosystem, but we have to make it more like generalized and include mangrove ecosystem because of its impact right now. So thank you so much for that, sir.
May I share an issue of a mangrove in Taiwan? Because we also have a mangrove in Taiwan, but mangrove in Taiwan has some native species, but now mangroves are blossom. It's really blossom, but the blossom one are not a native one. But many people want to use the mangrove to doing some blue carbon, the carbon sequestration. So it will be a problem that when we are doing some blue carbon, you have to consider the species, the native or not. Yes, so it's our problem that for the mangrove, and I just think about this. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna support you because the blue carbon is very important, and we try, like in case in Thailand, we try to show more about the blue carbon in mangrove forest, and lots of people very interesting. Yeah.
아마 이 시스템을 갖고 있기 때문에 제가 한국말로 해도 또 영어로 알아들으실 것 같은데, 잠깐 부연 설명드리면은 저희가 아까 말씀드린 아태 지역의 10개 국가가 아시아-태평양 장기생태 네트워크를 구축하고 있습니다. 그래서 우리나라의 환경부 산하에 충남 서천에 이제 국립생태원이라고 있어요. 국립생태원에서 우리 정부가 지원을 해갖고 동남아시아에 있는 맹그로브 관련 생물 데이터를 모으는 그러한 이제 IT 지원을 하는 거죠. 컴퓨터하고 데이터베이스를 이코뱅크라고 하는데, 근데 오늘 안 왔지만은 이제 베트남하고 지금 태국에 있는 맹그로브 데이터를 저희 국립생태원에 있는 이코뱅크에다 다 넣고 있어요. 그렇게 되면 이제 나중에 뭐 필리핀이나 다른 나라, 대만이라든가 이런 데랑도 MOU가 되어 있거든요. 그래서 연차별로 계속 우리가 또 그 경제적으로도 지원을 해주면서 연구 과제를 통해서 이 지역에 있는 데이터를 다 모으면은 이제 그 관련된 연구를 어느 분들도 할 수 있게 하는 그런 플랫폼을, 요새 뭐 AI, 빅데이터 이런 얘기들이 이제 일반인들도 먼저 알게 되어 있는데, 이런 데이터를 모아서 협업 체계를 구축하는 것이 되게 중요합니다. 그 과정의 일환으로 오늘 발표드린 것처럼 젊은 과학자들, 이 사람들이 서로 만나서 알게 되면 또 이런 분들이 나중에 연구자가 되고 교수가 돼서 20년, 30년 같이 연구 네트워크를 만들 수 있거든요. 그런 플랫폼을 이제 우리나라에서 이런 환경 경영이라고 하는 기업의 기부 활동을 통해서 우리 국제생태학교를 운영을 하고 있습니다. 네, 감사합니다.
네, 오늘 뭐 뜻깊은 어떤 패널 세션에 참여해주신 모든 분들께 감사드리고요. 청년 과학자분들의 연구 내용들이 좀 공유되는 뜻깊은 순간이었던 것 같습니다. 이것들이 좀 더 활성화돼서 차후에도 더 좀 연대감이 좀 더 생기고 또 많이 확대가 될 수 있는 그런 기회가 됐으면 좋겠습니다. 오늘 세션은 이것으로 마치도록 하겠습니다. 예, 감사합니다.